and welcome in everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is the Coach's Corner. Of course, I am here with our resident coach, John Bonamego. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Bo. How are you doing today?
Good. Always look forward to Wednesday.
Yeah, me too. Not just hump day, but get a chance to get on here, talk a little football, try to show everybody that, all aspects of the game, and maybe a little bit of peek behind the curtain every once in a while.
Absolutely. I mean, we might as well talk about what we were chatting offline, or off screen rather. Just some of the things that come up, especially when it comes to people talking about coaches, and as much as you try to ignore it, you do hear that stuff.
Sure, absolutely.
And players too, I guess.
Yeah, and I think the thing that tipped us off was I said I'm always, I'm sensitive to it because, as you know, I've been on both sides of it. I've been the guy that's been praised, and then I've been the guy that's on the radio that, everybody's saying should get fired. And so, you as a coach, as a professional, you understand that that's part of the territory, that just comes with the job. But you have to keep in mind that these people, they have families, and those are the people that are hard to protect, because when your wife goes to the bus stop, right, she's not listening to talk radio on her way there and back, but somebody is, and somebody's going to make it their job to let them know what they're saying about her husband, and it goes the same thing. It's the same way with your kids and stuff. And so George DeLeon, who I worked with the Dolphins a long time ago, God rest his soul, said to me one time, he said, "Bono, you're not getting paid to coach football because you love it. You do it no matter what." He said, "You're getting paid. The money's for your family and your wife to have to listen to people talk crap about her husband on the radio, So
that's fair.
Yeah, and I think that, the players go through the same exact thing, and it's probably even more difficult for them because the age and experience level, and how we deal with these. And they've got a lot more people that are, friends that are kind of, think they have their back, but they're going to tell them everything that they hear about them, what's being said. So.
Yep. Well, and that's not even just at the professional level, because when I played semi-pro, right, we won a national championship. The only touchdown I gave up on my side, I was a corner, was in the championship game. This guy caught a one-handed miraculous catch in the corner of the end zone. I even had good defense on it. It was just an amazing catch. And I caught so much negativity outside of that game from outside. It was hilarious. I was like, on the stat sheet, I gave up one touchdown the whole year. Really? And we won the game, obviously, but it was just like, really, that we're going to focus on the one that the guy made a miraculous catch and somehow it's my fault. And I mean, in a way it was, I should have pushed him out of bounds. Right. But at the same time, it's like, really, you're going to dog on me? It's the only touchdown I gave up.
Yeah. You're only as good as your last play.
That's right.
I mean, that's the unfortunate reality of it. But, and I think, learning to deal with that for young players. I mean, I'll segue into that. Our guest that's going to be on, that we're bringing on, that's one very small part of what he does, but, helping players understand how to deal with the media, how to handle their social media, all of those things. That's what the player engagement role does. It's somebody that just wears an incredible large number of hats, for an organization. Very, very valuable part of any coaching staff at the college level and at the pro level. The role really has it's evolved over time. It's not something that's been around a long time. Again, it's always been there, but it's really taken off here in the last, I'd say, 5 years or so.
No, it makes sense, especially with the amount of social media that's out there. Because like when I played, Facebook existed, right? But
Right.
you didn't have 5 million avenues to do everything. Camera phones weren't exactly what they are today, especially
Right.
when it comes to, you know, recording video and stuff. So you just had less opportunity to do dumb stuff, especially like when I was in high school. It wasn't even, that wasn't an option at all. I mean, what I think in high school, like I don't think there was anything yet. I don't even think MySpace was around yet. So, I mean, I didn't have to worry about me doing dumb stuff and there being video of it. You know, where now there's a million cameras doing anywhere you go. Like you don't even have to be trying to record anything. Someone probably has you on their screen.
Well, there's no doubt. They're everywhere. You know, it's crazy. But you're right. You know, we were just talking about you know, the accountability factor. You know, again, you know, dealing with the media and all that stuff is just kind of goes with the territory. And you know, so many, you can't really fault the talk radio hosts either, because they're kind of giving that fan base what they want to hear, you know, a lot of times. But I just you know,
bad news sells.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the news when it's on TV. They're not telling you about all the good stuff that happens. They're trying to captivate eyeballs. And so your radio hosts are doing very similar things where they're barbecuing guys because that's what your agitated fan base is looking for.
Yep, no question. Is Justus in the green room yet or no?
No, not yet.
Well, he mentioned that you know, they had a staff meeting, so hopefully Coach Campbell won't keep him too long and let him get back to his office and get on this call. But he's in one of those roles, honestly, that he could get pulled like that anyways, you know. So
true. Well, and that's actually why I have, you know, quite a few questions for him, because that has to be just a very different atmosphere today than even 5 years ago.
Sure.
When you think of player development, because of things like social media and the NIL and transfer portal action. And I mean, there's so many outside forces. You know, I'm definitely looking forward to asking some of those questions, because just connecting with your athletes has got to be a real challenge at this point.
Right. No, there's no question. I mean, it's and not to mention the turnover. You know, I mean, exactly. You're getting more turnover, and those topics are going to fall in the wheelhouse of the discussions that he's going to have, or will have to have. You know what I mean? So all of that stuff is at the forefront now, and you know, that role again is somebody that's it's almost like a liaison position between the, you know, the staff and the coaches and the organization and the player. And, you know, it kind of bridges that gap, you know, especially with young guys when they're really trying to assimilate into the program, you know, just learn it, you know, adopting that culture, you know, the culture that's being built in the program. It takes some, you know, it takes all hands, and that role is important in that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder, especially with the NIL, the way it's going, if his position is even getting to talk to the kids directly, or are there agents involved at this point?
That's a good question. I don't know how much he deals with the NIL directly, but I know he's dealing with the fallout of it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's kind of what I mean, right? As soon as it becomes part of the picture, all of a sudden agents are involved, in theory, are involved in all aspects. And so, I mean, that's got to be a weird bridge to gap also.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I don't even know how. I'm not up to speed on the latest NCAA rules regarding to NIL and how that works with agents, because I know there are individuals that are getting representation, but I guess in theory that is the student athlete hires the agent to try to help him secure opportunities to use his NIL to make money.
Yeah, well, I mean, as it sits today, for sure, right? Because the NIL
Right.
is kind of an outside entity, but because they're trying to push the actually getting funding from the school,
Right.
that can change that interaction as a whole,
Yeah,
right?
that whole
Because then,
dynamic. Yep.
then your agents could be involved on the school side of it.
Right. Right.
Seems very weird.
It is very, very weird. Very weird.
A lot of tradition going away here.
There's no doubt. No doubt. But once it's gone, it's gone. I mean, I'm still trying to get used to saying Power 4 rather than Power 5.
I mean, is it even that? Like, it's going to be Power 2.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, realistically, because the ACC essentially is going to die. The Pac-12 is gone, and the Big 12, it's not as strong as, like the Big 10 or anything like that.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that over the next decade, these things pretty much fold into two conferences.
Two conferences.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, it's essentially just going to become pro sports is really all it is.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's sad to see some of these things go away, but, prime example of that is the Pac-12, right? Especially because, I'm here in the Seattle area. My favorite team is, the Huskies. And, we're going to see, I mean, unless the Pac-12 or Pac-2, whatever you want to call it, completely goes away, which all signs kind of indicated it will. But you have rivalry games that hang in the balance.
Right.
I mean, the Apple Cup here was Wazoo and UW. They've done it 114 times. NCAA is going to allow them to do it a couple more times. But if they don't end up in the same conference, that game goes away.
Right.
All right. We got our guest in the house. So introduce our guy.
Well, it's a pleasure to bring Justus Jones on the show today. Justus is at Iowa State. I had the pleasure of serving with him there for a year. He fills a very critical role of the director of player engagement or development. I know I butchered that title, but when he comes on, he can correct me. But really great guy. Has spent time in the NFL. In a similar role, in an assistant role, but he's running the whole deal there at Iowa State. So it's a pleasure to have my friend and somebody I just really care for and respect a lot, Justus Jones, on the show.
How's it going?
My man, how you doing, Bo? John or Pano?
I'm doing great. You like my background?
I was, as soon as I saw it, bro, I'm like,
yeah, we got to keep the show at least PG rated. So
yeah, that's right.
That's fair. That's fair.
Bo, that's kind of how we hit it off right away.
Right away.
Justus got hired. Like first thing I went up to him, I just said, "You seen the movie Horrible Bosses?" I'll call you Justus. I'll call you Justus in public, but in private, you're my man.
You know what it is. You know what it is.
That's right. Yeah. My man. That is hilarious. So how's your day going?
Good. Thanks for having me on, man. Just got out of a few meetings. Campbell, Bono knows Campbell loves meetings, so we were in there, our directors meeting, and man, just excited to be on.
When do you guys kick everything off? I'm sure the players are all back, but when's practice officially start?
Yeah, so that starts I have the schedule right here. It starts the 30th. So technically, our report date is the 30th, and then our first practice is that first of August.
Awesome. Coming quick.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
So when is Coach flying me up to speak to the team?
Man, you named the day. You picked the day.
If he's paying for the flight, I'll come up. That's all. He's got to pay for the flight and the hotel.
I feel it. I'll let him know. For sure.
All right, sounds good. See, I'm getting a gig out of this, Bo. I do miss you guys up there, though. I had a great year up there.
Yeah, it was it was kind of
it was a rough season. It was a rough season, but great people. I really respect the culture that Coach Campbell has installed there and how he runs the program. And it really starts with the people, that he surrounded himself with great staff. And, Justus, you were a tremendous addition. Tell us about, give us your exact title, and then kind of give us an outline of, your role. I kind of set it up. I know you wear a lot of hats, but, your title and kind of the scope of your responsibility there at Iowa State.
Yeah, so my official title is the Director of Student Athlete Development for the football team. It's called player engagement at the NFL level, so it's relatively the same thing, just in a different scope. And for me, a lot of my role is helping our guys transition into college and transition out, right? And so the first part is transition in, having the players understand what goes into being a student athlete at the collegiate level. Most of these guys come from Florida or Iowa, where they didn't have to do a lot, and it was just kind of everything was handed to them. And so this type of program doesn't allow for that. And so really welcoming them, but then also having them understand what it takes to be an Iowa State football player. Coach always says this place is different. And I would be honest and I'll kind of back that and say that this place is vastly different than any place I've been. Haven't been to a lot of places, but it is different, right? And so Coach always talks about going up the hard side of the mountain. And so having guys understand that, having guys buy into it, having guys understand what it takes to just get on the field here, and not only just get on the field, but thrive in the Big 12, is something that I take pride in having those guys utilize every resource and making sure they're asking questions and not being afraid to be themselves and ask questions and not being afraid to get it wrong and learn from those mistakes, right? So that's kind of the first part, right? And then the second portion is transitioning out, right? And so helping those guys understand that 99% of you are going to think that you're going to go to the NFL, but only 1% do, right? And so those are tough conversations that you have to have with a guy going into his third, fourth, or fifth year, where he comes in the office and asks you, like, man, what do you think, Jay? Like, what do you think is going to happen? And you can either continue to feed into the pipe dream, or you can give them some harsh reality and say, like, look, it's probably going to end here, man. And these are the reasons why. Not because you're not a good player, but just the fact that there's so many guys that enter this thing and so many guys that don't make it. And there's only a select, number of leagues that you can play in, right? And so having them kind of think outside of football, what do they like? What's their interest? What's their passions? What's their hobby? So we can maybe turn that into a job or some money in their pocket, right? And so providing those opportunities as they kind of come off that back nine of their career, the third, fourth, and fifth year, and really having them understand, man, like, football is just who you are. Football is just what you do. It's not who you are, right? And so having them understand that and allow them to see the world beyond the facility. Sometimes when you play ball, you just think of the 130 that's played with you. And so having them understand that there was a 130, there's a 130 in 2024, there was a 130 in 2019, there was a 130 in 1975, right? So, like, there's a lot of 130s out there. And so helping our guys understand that, but then surrounding them with some of those 130s so they could see what success looks like off the field. With our mentorship program and kind of exposing our guys to different areas or different avenues or different careers outside of ball, so they can have an understanding of, I'm a criminal justice major, but shoot, I can be a lawyer, I can be a cop, I can be an FBI agent, there's a lot of things within that. And if you don't like what you're majoring in, what are some other things that you could potentially go in, right? And so I think that's part of the game too. And then really helping our guys kind of navigate this thing or setting up a blueprint for them outside of football too, right? So, that can range from a myriad of different things, from girls, parties, like making sure that they understand, like, what nastiness is out there in Ames. Ames is a little town, but there's still a lot of nastiness in Ames, right? And so having to understand, like, those things out there, man, can be a detriment to you. Yeah, you'll get that instant satisfaction for a little bit, but then you'll be scratching your head thinking about why did I do what I just did about 2 hours later?
Mm-hmm.
So anything life outside of football, life after football, and kind of transitioning in, that's kind of my scope.
So, I mean, with the transfer portal the way it is, does it make it harder to connect with the athletes than it used to be? Because I mean, there's so much more mobility now. Does that affect you directly?
No, honestly, it doesn't. It kind of, in a weird way, it kind of makes it easier on me, right?
Oh.
And so for me, I don't look at when players come in. I don't see the jersey number. I don't even know honestly who the names of the guys we recruit, if I'm being completely honest with you. So like, I don't know them until they come in, right? And once you're in, it's a brotherhood. I don't care. Perfect example of this is Greg Gaines, who played here 2022 up until last year, right? He transferred. I still talk to him. On about a monthly basis. And what I tell our players is this relationship that me and you have goes far beyond Iowa State, no matter if you graduate or not. Right, Norris Davis, Jason Essex, Deion Silas, some of the guys I can just think of off the top of my head, I still kind of talk to, right, on a monthly basis, just checking in, because if I invest time in you, I'm investing time in the person, not the player, no matter what jersey you wear, right? And so for me, player or student athlete development goes far beyond Iowa State. It just doesn't go, it just doesn't stop at your fourth year. Right, just to stop at your fourth or fifth year, because then it's like, well, you just prep me for being good at football or being good at this finite time. No. What we're working on is a long-lasting relationship, so you can have long-lasting success post-playing career. And so it honestly makes it easier not on me, because it doesn't matter for me. It doesn't matter if you transfer or not. I think back in the day, when I played, you had to sit out a year and then you had to go somewhere else. Right. I think that decision to do that, it was kind of like I know this is a family show, but kind of like sticking the middle finger up to that university. It's like, yeah, I don't even want to play next year. I want to get out of here so bad. This place was so terrible that I will be willing to forfeit a year of eligibility and then go somewhere else. Now, like free agency. Okay. You don't want to be here. I get it. I understand. But guess what? You're going to still get my text and you're going to still get this development. You know what I'm saying? So for me, and I was that way in Tampa too, when guys would get traded or guys would go to go to another team free agency, or guys would just fizzle out. Man, I still talk to some of those guys. One guy I'm thinking of, I should text him, is Ishmael Hyman. Like, his my wife was like she loved her some Ishmael Hyman. He was an awesome guy, and it still is an awesome guy. And so like the relationship of a player development or anyone in player engagement should go far beyond their playing days and where they're at currently. So for me, it's I feel like it's a little easier.
I mean, it's funny because it changes the nature of one of the other questions that I had was, does the NIL affect what you do? But I guess realistically, based on the way you answered that, it sounds more like you'd be giving advice into what they would do with the NIL as that approaches. So same question, but there's a different feel to it.
Yeah. So NIL is made it more like the pros, and that's where it came from.
Yep.
Right. So when you're talking about financial literacy, it's easier to talk about it when they actually have money in their pocket. back in the day, when someone's talking to me about financial literacy, you're talking to me about saving 20% and I'm eating oodles and noodles? No, absolutely not. That's not going to happen. Right. Yeah. So I can talk to these guys about long-term high yield savings accounts, investing, credit, all those things, taxes, right? All those things, because they're going through that at that current moment. Right. And so NIL, to kind of answer your question, NIL makes it a lot easier on me because I could just talk about the things that you're currently going through. Again, when I played a W-2, I didn't know what a W-2 was until I left college. Now guys are asking, okay, I'm a W-9 employee. Justus, how do I fill this out? All right, let me go talk to the tax guy that we brought in and we can figure it out together. Or Justus, I'm thinking about getting a credit card. What do you think? Cool, let's talk about it, right? What are you using the credit card for? How are you going to use it? Are you going to pay it off monthly? What do you want to use it for? So we can have those grown man conversations at this current time rather than having the grown man conversations and hoping it sticks 5 years later, because they're putting it into practice right now.
That's a great point.
Makes sense.
Are you involved at all in helping them secure NIL?
No. So what I do with our collective, I'm not the salary cap guy now. That's not me. So for the only thing I really help out with NIL and Crystal Blum and Brent Bloom have done a fantastic job. So in order to get NIL, if you're part of that collective, you have to do certain community service objectives. And so I kind of help with that, right? And so like I help facilitate some of those pairings with Crystal and with Brent, and they do a fantastic job. So the only thing I really do with the collective is make sure that, okay, they need 5 players at this event, 3 players at this event, or 6 players at this event. They'll email me, Justus, we need these many players. Can you help us out? All right, cool. I have 2 little group chats for those groups, and I'll hit the group chat, see who wants to go, and then facilitate it that way. So that's really my only role in NIL.
Gotcha.
So I know that they are trying to make it so that the colleges are potentially paying kids, right? Obviously, it's one of the things that's on the table. And I don't know if you've encountered this with NIL already, but I imagine some of these guys are starting to get agents involved. Is that something you end up encountering? I mean, obviously it's not from the school's end yet, although it does sound like it's potentially going to go that way. It just seems like it could potentially complicate things.
Slightly, but the way that I kind of attack it is, with agents, right? In the first part of agents. And so we had Advanced NIL came in and gave a talk on agents, right? And what they're supposed to be doing, what they should be doing, how they should be licensed, what structure fees are what. And so we had that grown man conversation with our 2nd through 5th year guys. And even before that, guys were coming to me about, hey, I'm talking to this NIL agent. What do you think? What questions should I ask? So I have a whole one-sheeter on, hey, these are the questions that you should ask this NIL agent before you sign anything on a dotted line. Make sure you ask these questions. What are his values? Has he been disbarred before? What's your fee structure? All those different things. So they go in feeling prepared of like, okay, now I have 17 questions to ask. I'm going to take some notes and make sure that I understand if this guy's for me or not. But then the second layer to that is guys will say, okay, he sent me a contract, right? What do I do? One of my best friends, Kyle Lee, he's a employment lawyer down in Tampa, Florida. And so any contract that I get, I send to him and I say, hey, can you just take, an hour and just really read through this, make sure that the guy isn't getting kind of like screwed over, or what, do you feel like the fee structure is too high? So I say I have like a lawyer on retainer, but he's my best friend. And so I kind of have him read every contract that we go through that gets sent to me, and make sure that guys understand. He'll give me like a full printout of, hey, this is what's in it. This is how the fees are structured. If you go to the NFL, this is what can happen, or this is what's going to happen with him in the relationship. If you don't get, if he doesn't get you a deal, this is his percentage fee. All those different things that go into it. So on that end, we're kind of locked up, but we're kind of solidified on, okay, if those contracts do come in, how do we navigate them? And the guys know, okay, just go to Justus. He'll kind of guide me through it, right? So from the aspect of an agent standpoint, again, I come from the NFL landscape, so it's not really a big thing to me about getting involved with those type of situations, right? Or those type of things. So, with those agents, it's just making sure that the guys understand what they're signing, right? And so I think that's the biggest thing for me in understanding that the relationship, right? Under having the guys understand that the agent works for you, right? And I think when they're so young, right, 18, it's like, oh man, this agent's hitting me up, like I work for this guy now. It's like, no, hold up, no, you are in the center, right? The circle is you, right? You're this circle. You got your agent, you got, and this is how we kind of structured it, at least in Tampa, your agent, your financial advisor, your coaches, right? So it's like now it's your agent, your coaches, me, nutritionists. Like these people are all working for you. And so having them understand that they have a little bit of power, but they're still young. So you don't want to say like, hey, you have all the power. It's like, whoa, not that, right? Just understanding that these people are here to serve you, right? You're not here to serve anybody, right? These people are all here to serve you. So how can you leverage those relationships to better your on-field performance and your off-field growth?
No, that makes sense. So, I mean, since you've been in both, right? You've been in college, you've been in the pros. What do you think is like the biggest similarities and the biggest differences between your position, because you've had similar positions between the two?
Yeah, I would say the biggest differences are that pro athletes their circle's a lot tighter, if that makes sense. So sure. if they like they most pro athletes will be cordial with everybody or be nice to everybody, right? That's just the nature of the business. But like there's usually one or two people that they'll really confide in. So like it's either the player development guy or a coach or an athletic trainer, right? At the college level, guys are a little more open and receptive to talk about these different things because they're growing, right? And I think sometimes the NFL athlete is thinking to himself, okay, I'm making 7.5 a year. What can this guy or woman really tell me? You know what I'm saying? And so there's an aspect of that if you just build the relationship, and most player engagement people are phenomenal at this. If you build the relationship with the player, no matter what the pay scale is for that player, they are going to come to you, you know? And so I think that's one of the biggest differences. And I think the other biggest difference is you get a little more freedom in the NFL as a player, right? And so when we're talking about OTAs, 8 to 12 or that 4-hour window, guys are out of there, right? Once that final position meeting's over in OTAs, guys are out. Now with college, it's a little more structured where it's like you have something 8 to 10, 10 to 12, lunch 1 to 3. It's like there's a lot more nuance to it, and you're in especially even during camp. You know, typically depending on the organization, you're out of there. The players are out of there around 7:30, 8 o'clock sometimes. With college, it's not that. It's not that. Usually they're there for a little longer, and I think you have to. There's a little more guardrails in college where they don't want. I think a lot of head coaches are afraid that if they just give the guys more free time, they're going to get into more things, which is perfectly fair. I think that's a fair thing. And professional coaches know, like, look, I'm not going to keep this guy who has a daughter and son and a wife at home till 9:30 at night. We're not doing all that. If he wants to stay till 9:30 at night, that's great. I love it. But we'll stop this thing at 7 so you can put the kids to bed and then come back here at 7 o'clock in the morning, right? So I think the way that different things are scheduled and structured is probably the biggest difference between the NFL and college. There's a lot more things that guys are required to do versus optional.
I mean, that makes sense because you still have to navigate your school day.
Right. So,
yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense.
Justus, what motivated you to go this route? And then, you know, like I've certainly seen this role really expand and take off just, I'd say, like in the last 5 years. And, you know, kind of two parts of the question. What motivated you to go this route? And then what growth have you seen and experienced in just in your role across the collegiate and NFL landscape?
Yeah. So what encouraged me to get into the role is I felt like I was lost at the end of college ball, right? So me playing at Bowling Green from 2007 to 2011, once I graduated, I felt like I was incredibly lost. I didn't have a direction, didn't have any guidance. You know, my parents guided me, but I didn't have any guidance as far as what to do next, right? And so there was a lot of things that I had to learn on the fly. And I wanted to get into this because I wanted to be the buffer between kind of the real world and that college athletic experience. Guys think that the college athlete experience is real life, but it's nowhere close. So like understanding that there's not going to be a strength coach to tell you to get up at 6 a.m. and go work out when you got a job to be at 9. He ain't going to tell you that. You're going to have to do it yourself, or there's not going to be nutritionists, all these things, right? So I wanted to be the buffer between real life and college athletics, because once the rubber meets the road for most of these guys, it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing for a lot of college athletes that their identity is so wrapped up into their sport. When they leave, there's a lot of identity issues or crises that happen, and so I want to make sure that, one, I'm the buffer, and two, help them realize that they're, one, more than just an athlete, and two, they're, like I said before, football is just what you do. It's not who you are, right? And so I think that kind of sums up the first aspect. The growth, I think, has been amazing to see. I think when you talk about player development, everyone does it a little differently. But I think there's more solidified roles now, right? And so I take player development very seriously, and it's near and dear to my heart. And so when I see the growth, I get a little nervous because I want the right people in those positions, no matter what the university is, right? And so, I got a chance to meet the player development person in Iowa. Awesome guy, does a really good job, right? So I'm like, okay, that's awesome. They're getting developed. That's great, right? So it makes me a little nervous, but ultimately I feel proud and accomplished that I could be a part of such kind of a brother sister. Ashley Goodman at Kansas is doing a fantastic job over there, and so just seeing those different people, and me and Ashley, we kind of started at the same time in the NFL. So she was with Green Bay as like an intern, and I was at Tampa as an intern, and I got the chance to meet her at the annual meet, the player engagement annual meeting. So it's cool to see the people even that you started with grow and develop to have their own shop, right? And so that's another cool thing to see. But really, ultimately, I feel really proud and really joyful of how many universities are starting to invest in this player development role and not just churn players over like a factory, right? And so I think it's something that I would say a good amount of parents look forward to in the recruiting journey. I think some kids look forward to it in the recruiting journey. And I think ultimately it's better for the sport of football and college football, but not only college football, but college athletics. The only thing I would probably say is I would want more player development people in those basketball roles, in those soccer roles, in those, because those kids young men and women need developing too, right? And so that's the only thing I would say. I love it in the sport of football because that's what I get to see on an everyday basis, and I get to see that grow. But I would love to see it a little bit more in more maybe even smaller sports, but those Olympic sports where it's like, man, is there a way to help those young men and women as well? So I think ultimately, like I said, it's an awesome experience and cool to be a part of the growth journey of player development.
It's funny because it's something I think should have been around longer than it's been. And the only reason I say that is every sport has an element of this, but football is unique in the way that when you step away from football, that last snap is the last time you'll ever do anything like it, right? Like if you're playing baseball or basketball, you can play rec versions of it that are pretty competitive. When you step away from football, it's the last time you strap your helmet on. And it's very weird when you take you play that last game, because a lot of times you don't know that was your last game. So you're not even necessarily always prepared for it. And so you just, you go from doing something you've done your entire life to taking your cleats off the last time. You're like, oh, I guess I'm just never going to do that again.
Yeah.
So a development person, key. I almost feel like high schools should have something like that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, even my experience, right? I knew that the game in Buffalo for me, when we played, University Buff was going to be my last game. I knew it. I knew it for a fact. Like I knew I didn't have the feet. I didn't have the, so like even for me, it's like, even for a person like me, if I look back at 2011 Justice, he probably could have used a player development person to guide him on different aspects of, okay, once you're done with this, here are some different avenues you can go down with this type of degree, right? And so like there's guys that didn't think that it was going to be their last snap, and it was.
Yep.
And there's guys like me where we're like, yeah, I know it's my last snap, but I don't have a blueprint for this thing. I have no idea. And so like it could be used at any or work really for any type of player, even the guys that know they're going to the NFL. And for me, you know, I think we got like TJ Tampa. Talking to TJ throughout his junior and senior year, like that, and shout out to Coach Poe too, like Coach Poteet. He helped. I would say me and Coach Poe helped TJ understand, okay, this is not going to be your final snap, but this is what it looks like in those buildings. It's not here. This isn't, when you go there, it's not Iowa State. It's not hee rah rah. It's not that. It's a business, and this is how you should conduct yourself accordingly. These are the people that are in these roles. This is your player engagement guy. This is your this is what athletic training looks like. This is what sports science looks like. This is what the weight room looks like, right? So like even those guys that go to the league and are going to play, I think that player development person should understand, okay, what does it look like at that level? Because they're going through it for the first time. And for me, even though I didn't play at the NFL level, I know what those rookies are experiencing and what goes through their head at that time, right? And so I can kind of speak to it. When TJ got drafted, I immediately texted Jamil from the Ravens, like, hey, this is TJ. This is what he likes. This is who he is as a person. He's kind of quiet a little bit, but he's a good kid, and yada yada. Here are some aspects where you can kind of help him navigate this thing. Same thing with Ben Nickel with the Commanders. And Malcolm Blackman was in that seat, but he's not there anymore. But I emailed Black like, hey man, this is who Ben Nickel is. If this doesn't work out, please introduce him to the scouting department because he wants to be a scout if this doesn't work out. So like those little tidbits, those little things, even from the player development person, can go a long way for those guys that are even going to make the league, right? And so I think no matter if you're going to the league or not, I think it's beneficial for those people.
I never thought about a guy that maybe doesn't make the roster transitioning over to a scout. That's kind of didn't even think about that being an option, but that's kind of a cool way to do it as far as remaining with a team. Yeah. So like me and Pogo, we call him Pogo, but
Pogo, that's my guy.
Pogo, you remember Pogo? So he came to me right after the 2022 season. He's like, man, I think I want to be a scout. This is before Pogo kind of blew up his senior year, and he's like, I think I want to be a scout. And I was like, okay. So I texted some of my scouting friends. I was like, hey, this guy Pogo wants to be a scout. Like, what are you thinking? Can I give him some things to kind of work on? Like, obviously you start out as kind of a scouting assistant, then you go to area scout or maybe pro scout, then national, then director, player, all those things, right? And so like, what can I teach him about the scouting? Because I wasn't a scout. I didn't watch film. Well, I kind of did a little bit, but it was more so like checking the energy on guys. And so like, what can I teach him? And so they gave me, I got to give a big shout out to Antoine Murray at the Bucks, and then Taylor Redd, he was with the Patriots. They kind of gave me some things like, hey, these are the things that you probably should teach him, like POAs, write-ups, all these things. So we had like this like kind of, I guess you can call it like a 6-week scouting course with me and Ben Nickel, and so like, and then he kind of interned with Trent Slatter now, our recruiting guy who does all the POAs and stuff like that. So he interned with him. And at the end of the summer, he did like a full write-up on all the freshmen. This is what I think. This is their film. I'm like, man, if there was no player development guy in that, like he would have just been trying to figure it out. And then I had him shadow during the pro day in 2023, Will McDonald, MJ Anderson's pro day. And I think Anthony Johnson was there too, but and Xavier Hutchinson. But I had him shadow Antoine Murray that entire day to see like what he does at a pro day. So like he got all that intel, and I feel like if there's not a player development person in that role, he would have never got that experience. He would have never worked on scouting. He would have never worked on watching film. The difference between watching film as a player versus a scout. And so like all these different nuances, now he can feel a little bit confident and breathe easy. It's like, okay, if this doesn't work out, I know I have the tools necessary to be a scout, and that's what I want to go do. Cool, I love it. So yeah, it happens more than you think. And I'll tell you this. This is what really got me excited. Jack Hester, he was a senior, gonna be a senior this year. He stopped playing, and he wanted to. He's now my intern with me in player development, and so like he wanted to do player development. He saw what I was doing. He saw the relationships I was building, and he was like, "Man, like, would I be able to intern with you?" Like I was like, "Yeah." Like after your playing days, you obviously got to keep playing. You don't have to, obviously, but like you can't be a player development person and a player at the same time. And so now he's a full-time intern and really taking off in this player development role. And so like I think you'll start to see too a lot of former players possibly want to go into this role. And like speaking from experience, I'm a former player, and so it's a cool thing to be a part of, and I think that it's really beneficial to have that person there. And like you said, like the scouting thing, like there's a lot of different avenues in the football world that you could go down as a player, and some of the guys just don't know them. They have no idea. They see the coach and they see recruiting. That's it. There's ops, there's video, there's graphics, there's player development, there's academic, there's all these things that are in your building that you can learn about. And so kind of giving them that knowledge too. It's like, yeah, if you want to stick around the game, there's more than just a coach. Like you just don't got to be a coach, and I love coaches, and I think that's an awesome thing to go into, but that's not the only way to get into this thing. There's more than one path to being around the game, and coaching is high intensity, and sometimes guys go into coaching, and as you know, Bono, like it's not for everybody. No, it ain't for everybody. It takes the top at the top, right? And so like some guys are like, man, I don't want to go into coaching. Like maybe I just get a regular job. It's like, okay, that's one aspect of the sport that you've gone down. What's the other avenue, right? What's the player development avenue? What's the academics? What's the nutrition? What's the strength and conditioning? So making sure that guys not only know that there's opportunities for sticking around the game, but opportunities outside the game as well.
Yeah. I'm going to pivot a little bit here because you brought up Bowling Green already. Proud product of the MAC, just like myself. Coach Campbell, head coach at Toledo as well. How did you have a relationship with Matt before coming to Iowa State? And if not, did coming from a MAC school, did that, were you aware of that? Did that help your chances, do you think? I mean, I'll say this: when you're in the MAC, you have to learn how to grind, whether you're a player, coach, whatever your role is, because the resources are scarce, the demands are, still very high, and you find out very quickly, who's willing to roll up their sleeves and work because there's nowhere to hide, and there really isn't. So
that's true. So I did know Coach Campbell. He was the offensive line coach at Bowling Green from 07 to 08. He was there before that too, but my time he was there 07 to 08, and that's where I knew him. I knew Coach Hillman there too. He was our strength coach. Different guy these days. Obviously, yeah. Strength coaches are different animal. And I also knew Skip as well. So Skip was a student worker. We graduated at the same time, actually. So I knew Skip. Yep, right. Skip Hillman and Campbell from Bowling Green. And I knew of Campbell. Because obviously I wasn't an offensive lineman, but like our room was right next to there. So it went quarterbacks, offensive line, then wide receivers, and so I got to know him pretty well, just because he has a different different voice. So like, you know, when he's around. Yeah. And so like, I knew of him, you know, heard him coaching up his guys a lot. And I was always really, really impressed with Campbell because our offensive lines were so good when he was there, so good. And the way that he taught the game was amazing.
Yep.
And like, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was talking to Corey Lichtensteiger, and he probably had no business talking to me. I'm a freshman, he's a senior, right? But like, he was talking to me about just where I come from, right? And I believe Corey is an Ohio guy, if I'm not mistaken. But I was telling him about, my family being from Youngstown, all these things, and we kind of got to talking about his position. And Corey was a center, and so Coach Campbell taught him so well that he was able to look at the safeties and understand what they were doing in the box. And I'm like, dude, I can barely read cover 3. Like, how are you doing this? It's amazing, right? And so like his ability to teach and to coach up his players is probably one of, I would say, top 5 that I've seen, right? And so like it's so cool to see him teach and nurture these young men, and that's why, for me, coming here was a no-brainer, because I see what he's about. I see the culture that he tries to provide for these young men, and I was just kind of an added bonus to something that he wanted to do, right? And so the culture and the mindset of Iowa State is one of growth, and so I thought it was easy to come here and kind of implement something that didn't really had a little bit to do with football, but mostly just getting these guys ready for life after football. So yeah, Campbell's I wouldn't say a longtime friend, but he's been a longtime acquaintance for a while. I watched him, I watched him at Iowa State when I was in Tampa. Got beat by him a couple of times in Bowling Green. He went over to Toledo, kind of changed the culture there. And so it's been an amazing ride, man. Amazing ride with him. I can't be more appreciative of what he's allowed me to do and be here.
Yeah, there's no question. He's a special guy. I'm a huge fan. Hopefully, maybe we can get him. Maybe I can get him on the show here one of these weeks. Hopefully,
yeah, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. I would love it. Yeah, I would love it, man. But yeah, you're to your point about the MAC, man. Like the MAC's a different animal. It's like coaching. It's not for everybody, right? And so like limited resources with high expectations is something that not a lot of people can thrive in. A lot of people can probably survive.
It's a proving ground. It really truly is. I mean,
absolutely. Not a lot of people can thrive. Some can survive, but a lot of them kind of
you look at the number of players and coaches that have gone through, have spent time in that league and, have thrived, and have done it at the highest level. I mean,
Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, like those guys, like Toledo, Bowling Green. Shoot, it's
shoot.
Crazy.
You got Sean McVay and John Harbaugh that both played at Miami, Florida, or Miami of Ohio. Excuse me. Man, there's a ton of guys.
Yeah, it's a league. Like I said, it's a league that where you have limited resources, and there's still the expectation that's identical to an Iowa State. It's very identical, right? So like, if you don't make a bowl game in the MAC, they're probably asking some questions, right? Sure. Same thing here. If you don't make a bowl game, and now the expectation is even higher, it's like you don't even at least get to the Big 12 title. It's like, okay, well, what's going on? Right? What's happening? And so, but it's crazy. You have to do it with limited, like way less.
Yes,
way less. There is no.
I don't know if I shared this story with you, Bo, or not, and I know I have. Don't think I've shared it with you, Justus. But when I was at Central Michigan, and in 2016, we flew down to Oklahoma State, to Stillwater, and we beat them. And it was last play of the game and controversial deal. But the airplane that we flew there and back on had ashtrays in the armrests.
Woo!
Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely out to the lowest bid and all that stuff. And you haven't been able to smoke on an airline in a long time. So that just kind of gives you an idea. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember visiting a Big Ten school and talking to the head coach, and his budget to feed, just for feeding his team, was better than what my entire operating budget was for a whole year. Just they spent that much on food, you know. So it's challenging for sure, you know, and like you said, and I mean, just being who you can hire, and that's part of the reason why it's such a great proving ground, because you know you can if you have success in the MAC, you're destined to have success elsewhere. So
oh yeah,
it's been proven.
Oh yeah, for sure.
No, that makes sense. Underfunded is tough. I did it on a racetrack. I can tell you, we did not have the best automotive equipment. So anytime we were finishing in the top 5, you know, that was a win.
yeah, for sure.
So who do we open up with this year? Who do the Cyclones open up with?
North Dakota.
Okay, not an easy game. Definitely.
No.
I can't look past those guys. They're
no. They're good. They're
playing down the division, but you're playing at the top of that division. They're really good. They're good.
Yeah. Then we go to Iowa. Trying to think. We go to Iowa. Then I believe we have a bye. I want to say. And then I think we go to Arkansas State. No, we play Arkansas State at home.
Okay.
We play Arkansas State at home, and I know we go to Houston.
So they're going to again rekindling another MAC rivalry. You got Butch Jones coming in.
Yeah. So then we start Big 12 play at Houston, which is probably the worst place to go to in September.
Yeah,
it's gonna be hot. Then Baylor comes to us. Then we go to West Virginia. I'm trying to think. What's the other one? Go to West Virginia. UCF. Let me see.
Yeah, you got them at home.
Yep, and then
I wish it was the other way. I wish you guys were coming down here, because
I know.
Be easy one for me.
Yeah, my wife is from Cocoa, so you would love it. Then we have a bye. Then we stay at home, play Texas Tech, to Kansas, but that's at a neutral site at the Chief Stadium. Then we play Cincinnati at home, Utah on the road, then in with Kansas State. 2 tough ones back to back, Utah and Kansas State.
Yeah,
Utah, they got a defense.
Yeah,
that'll be a battle.
Mm-hmm. We've done pretty good in Utah, though. At least once.
Are you playing Utah State or Utah?
Utah.
Okay, that's a great atmosphere.
Yeah, I heard.
I mean, it's they're like the A&M Aggies. Their student body stands up the entire game. They don't
really.
Yeah.
Whew. Can't wait.
Yeah, it'll be good.
I think they're ranked 9 right now, right?
They're good. They're good. They're definitely good. I know that because that's one of the places I want to visit. I want to see a game there someday. I haven't.
Yeah.
It's one of the stadiums I haven't been to.
For sure.
All right. Well, that puts us right up against it time-wise. We appreciate you coming on, man. This has been great. If people were looking to get a hold of you at Iowa State, where would they find you?
So we actually, our player development program is called the STORM program. And we actually just so STORM is an acronym for Sustained Transformation Over Retained Mentorship. We actually just got on the website. So if you go to cyclones.com/storm, we got the website up. We're on LinkedIn too, so you can find us there. But if you want to email me, you can go stormprogram@iastate.edu.
Awesome.
Justus, thanks for joining us, man. It was awesome seeing you. Have a great, productive, safe preseason. tell everybody there that I said hello, especially Coach Campbell, Rory, Rob Grandy, Coach Haycock, Mouse, all those guys. Tell them I said hello, please.
Yes, sir. We'll do. Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Tell She Dog I said gave him one of these.
And I got you.
Get him on that and tell him that was from me. Please.
Awesome.
I got you.
Awesome.
Right on. And if you are watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. That helps us bring our content to you. And of course, if you are watching on Roku, stay tuned for the next hour. Other than that, we will see y'all next Wednesday.
Thanks, fellas.